all of you here. Barbara, we all know Weiss had already been looking into Hunter Biden, but as special counsel, how does that change the game? And does it surprise you at all, given the fact that he was part of this plea deal that fell through, that he would be the one that would get the nod as special counsel?
Well, it doesn't surprise me that he would get the nod, but it does surprise me that he's asked for special counsel status. I think when they had the plea deal that didn't go through, it seemed that they were resolving the case, although David Weiss has always said that the investigation is ongoing. And so the timing of it seems a little odd to me, but Merrick Garland, true to his word, has always said that David Weiss has sole authority to decide this case, and he asked for special counsel status, which means he can now pursue charges in other districts beyond Delaware.
Fair to say, maybe a big understatement, this is a bad day for Hunter Biden.
Yes, I think so. It suggests that certainly the tax charges and the gun charge is not going to be the end of it, that David Weiss is. Now, it doesn't mean he's definitely going to file charges, but it means he wants to use a grand jury in some district other than Delaware. And so it's difficult to speculate as to what those additional crimes might be, but they seem certainly to exceed the scope of what he had planned to plead guilty to just a few weeks ago.
Hey there, guys. So the Hunter Biden story just keeps taking more turns every day. I mean, the guy's lawyers are resigning, which is big news when it happens to Trump, but when it's a Biden, no one wants to talk about it. This whole thing feels more like a soap opera. So we all know that it's under a special counsel now, and there's a lot of questions regarding that. We all know that his too good to be true plea deal with federal prosecutors just fell apart, which a lot of us hope for. Just not because we have anything against Hunter Biden, but because that plea deal on the gun crime alone should have never happened. But here's probably the most interesting part of this whole thing that I've been watching. You've got media giants like MSNBC just playing the bad news for Hunter tune. They're acting like it's an honest investigation and that nobody has questions about it. But really, they're just doing the Democrat and the Biden administration's bidding. They're trying to make this thing look like it was all legit. You know, when anyone with any kind of critical thinking skills can see that this was not legit. You don't take 5 years to get to 2 misdemeanors that a judge throws out because it's just too embarrassing to even read. You know, they never even asked any of these questions. This is, you know, just a story. This is not how they see the story. This is how they want the story to be seen. You know, even some of the whistleblowers have pointed out that the DOJ and the IRS, they were literally conspiring to slap Hunter with just light charges, especially regarding his tax-related stuff. You know, then there's the matter of the plea deal that literally looked too good to be true, which a judge thought so as well. You know, the judge thought it was designed to shield Hunter from any prosecution. And when it got exposed in court, the DOJ, they look like a bunch of morons. And they've been leading Hunter to believe, you know, it maybe is too bad for Hunter, because the DOJ was leading them to believe that he'd be untouchable for potential charges like the Foreign Agent Registrations Act, the FARA stuff, especially, you know, that, considering his alleged business dealings overseas using his dad's name. As if this wasn't all tangled enough, you've got people like Joy Reid going on a tangent, suggesting that Hunter's getting the short end of the stick. She says that he's somehow getting worse treatment than Donald Trump. This is absolutely insane. This woman cannot possibly believe this stuff. You have to see this stuff. Before we do, guys, thank you to everyone who's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. We really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, guys, join us. It's going to be a fun journey. And help us with the algorithm. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel.
So, I mean, in other words, he's being treated differently because he's Joe Biden's son. I want to read this little piece here. The particular gun charge that the feds brought against Joe Biden, this is from the Daily Beast, a drug user in possession of a firearm, is rarely brought as a standalone crime, especially now that roughly a fifth of the country uses cannabis, with an inevitably significant overlap with the nation's estimated 80 million gun owners. There's more than that, I think. When the feds do bring this type of case, they come down hard, but it's usually a tool they use to take down tough-to-arrest criminals, like militant white nationalists, Islamist terrorists, or narco traffickers. I think all the evidence that I've seen so far in this case is that Hunter Biden, he could be a terrible guy, I don't know, never met him, is being treated worse than anyone else would be. He's being treated worse the way Donald Trump claims he's being treated worse, but he actually is, because normally this would just be misdemeanor stuff that would be done with. Instead, he's endlessly investigated because of politics. That's my perception.
Well,
what's yours?
Yeah, well, I think with respect to the gun charge, which I don't expect that we'll see again, because we now have a ruling from one of the circuits that particular offense violates the Second Amendment after the Supreme Court's ruling last year in a different case, a Second Amendment case. So I don't think we're going to see that reappear. But to your point, that charge was part of a negotiated plea agreement. And so, there's lots of factors that go into that. There's a give and take from both sides. It was something that was subject to a diversion agreement, which means if he complies with certain requirements for the period of 2 years, I think it was 2 years in that agreement, there would be no charge. So, right. I'm not going to say that I think he was treated totally differently because of that. I will say, though, that the very fact that David Weiss was still even the prosecutor, forget the special counsel appointment today, even before that, he was a holdover Trump-appointed U.S. attorney. Normally, all of the president's U.S. attorneys resign on January 20th when a new administration comes in. So already there was some special treatment here or different treatment here, and it was all, I think, for political purposes. So it would not appear that the Department of Justice was going to replace, a Republican-appointed prosecutor who's investigating the president's son. So politics are definitely a part of this, but that's, I think, why the Attorney General said it's in the public interest to do this.
All right, so let's break this down. So Joy Reid recently suggested that Hunter Biden has been treated worse than Donald Trump. She can't possibly believe that. Just the way she's treated Donald Trump alone makes that not true. Now, this is insane for a number of reasons. The Foreign Agent Registrations Act I talked about, the FARA. So this is the legislation was rarely used to bring charges until the Trump era. But during the Trump-Russia investigation, Robert Mueller used it to pursue people like Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn for their relationships with foreign countries. And these are the prosecutions that the Democrats say prove Russian interference, although they were FARA violations from years before they even knew Donald Trump. So the Democrats didn't even bat an eye when Trump's people were investigated under this act. But now there's a perception that Hunter Biden isn't being held to the same standard. Come on. There's no way they believe that. There's no way they believe that. To date, there haven't been any charges brought against him related to FARA. No one even wanted to whisper it until the judge asked that question. But, I mean, the charges that Hunter's facing, man, in the eyes of most people, they're incredibly lenient. The gun felony alone would put anyone watching this video in prison for up to 10 years. And there's rumors, cozy connections between the DOJ and the IRS that may have played a part. You guys remember Wesley Snipes? Serious consequences over tax stuff. Not exactly the same, but similar enough that one guy shouldn't be getting probation and the other guy should be going to prison. So it's puzzling, especially Joy Reid, the way she tells it. She pointed out the disparities in treatment based on race. And now with Hunter, who's a white male under the spotlight, she seems to be on the defensive. She doesn't want to talk about white privilege now. But, some people might think it's because of her favorable view, the way she views Joe Biden, of course, and the way she views Donald Trump. And speaking of Trump, the guy's literally facing every imaginable charge dating all the way back to the Civil freaking War. So when you look at Joe Biden, despite certain allegations, concerning his classified documents, there's not any legal action going on, and there's nothing seeming to be coming up. If anything does come up, I'm guessing it won't be till after the upcoming election, of course, to avoid any sort of influence on the results. But here's the thing, and here's what I think is really interesting here. The underlying narrative. There's a belief among some that the DOJ is obstructing investigations into the Bidens. According to James Comer, they're on the brink of finding concrete evidence, possibly fake statements showing Joe Biden personally benefited from Hunter Biden's dealings. I don't know. But with the DOJ, potentially interfering, getting to the bottom of this is probably going to be more challenging than anyone even thinks.
Chairman, did it blow you away as much as it blew me away when Merrick Garland stood in front of the American people and said, well, this prosecutor said he wanted to be the special counsel, so I named him the special counsel?
I mean, what a joke. What a joke. I mean, I about fainted when I got a text. I was in Princeton, Kentucky when I got the text. I mean, this is an attorney general who has lost the confidence of the American people. He has done more to damage our justice system than any human being in recent memory. And here we on the Oversight Committee, for all practical purposes, have been the special counsel for the past 6 months. We've produced more evidence than anyone that's supposedly investigating this criminal activity by the Biden family. And right as we get to the point to where we've traced it to Joe Biden, and we're at a position where we can win in court to fight their attorneys and get their actual personal bank records, he comes out with this. This is another attempt to try to obstruct. They're going to try to use this in court when they say, no, we can't give the Oversight Committee our bank records because there's an ongoing investigation by David Weiss.
How obvious. They don't care. They don't. You know what it is, Congress? I hate to do this because it's the middle finger to the American people. It's literally going, I don't care what you think of what I'm about to do, but here it is, and they're giving it to us.
They think the American people are stupid. They think that the American people aren't paying attention to this because the mainstream media is not reporting it.
So the GOP is pointing fingers at the Biden administration, specifically the DOJ, accusing them of obstruction. Now, here's where it gets wild. So while the mainstream media and the White House are pretending to be surprised and taken aback by special counsel on the Hunter Biden deal, even outlets like CNN are raising eyebrows. They're suggesting that there might be some truth in what conservatives are saying regarding the political maneuvering behind the investigation, and even more importantly, its timing. But, you know, it's not every day you see CNN, a network that is not exactly right-leaning, agreeing with a conservative perspective. And it at least should make you think.
Again, they were not notified ahead of time of this action by the Justice Department. We have asked them for comment. They have not replied yet. But again, this is a White House that is facing increasing pressure when it comes to the president's son, Hunter Biden. Republicans have slammed the president over all of these legal proceedings, and also so much as flirted with a potential impeachment inquiry. Now, when that has come up, the White House stance has been that it is baseless, that the focus should be in Congress on the American people. But all of this to say that criticism is ramping up. This will likely fuel Republicans and what they have to say about Hunter Biden and these ongoing legal proceedings.
Okay, Priscilla, thank you so much. She says it could fuel the Republicans, but the other way to look at it is that it could keep Republicans at bay, because now that you do have a special counsel, which a lot of Republicans were calling for, A, and B, I can't remember if it was Paula or one of our other reporters, maybe you guys were making this point, that while the special counsel is doing his work, he's unlikely to talk to Congress, and it's unlikely for them to get the information that they're working.
Right, and that's what's so interesting is that prior to this announcement, the Justice Department was saying that Weiss was prepared to testify to Congress as early as September, as soon as they came back from their August recess. That the Justice Department said that they wanted to do that specifically because of the assertions that Republican lawmakers were making about his authority to conduct his wide investigation into Hunter Biden, and that he wanted to directly address that as soon as he could, assuming that they had a deal that would have gone forward with Hunter Biden's lawyers. That fell apart, but we were still expecting him to potentially testify to Congress when they came back. Now, as you said, Dana, that's probably not going to happen for quite some time as he has these new authorities.
What do you make of these Republican criticisms?
I think there are some legitimate questions about this whole situation. First of all, I do think it's fair to question why would U.S. Attorney Weiss be appointed the special counsel. Usually a special counsel is an outside attorney. Right. Now, it has happened before. Durham came from inside, and the Attorney General has the right to do that, but it is odd. Second of all, this plea deal was picked apart by the judge, so one could ask, why would you stick with the U.S. Attorney if this was a failure, a colossal failure? The two sides had not even agreed upon what was in that plea deal. And then I think there are questions about whether or not it was harsh enough, this plea deal, whether or not it was strong enough. Beyond that, there are some other questions I have, which include the U.S. Attorney Weiss. He's now a special counsel. So one of the reasons to make him a special counsel, supposedly, is so that he has the ability to charge in other venues outside Delaware. But I believe he had previously argued publicly that he had the right to do whatever he wanted. And then the whistleblowers said, well, behind the scenes, Weiss was complaining he couldn't do that. He wasn't able to do that. And the Justice Department and Weiss denied what the whistleblowers were saying. But this move makes it seem as though, well, maybe the whistleblowers were right. Maybe what they were alleging is true, and he didn't have the ability to charge wherever he wanted to charge, and now he does. So I do have a lot of questions about that, and I do think some of the political questions being raised by Republicans have merit.
Man, so when even CNN is hinting that there might be something to the GOP's claims of obstruction in the Hunter Biden investigation, honestly, man, Joy Reid, her perspective on Hunter being treated more harshly than Trump is insane. And she can't possibly believe it. I can't believe that they haven't deleted that episode. I mean, she's had some wild, bad takes. And it's surprising that she even maintains her position, as crazy as MSNBC is, but especially considering her ratings. But she's basically just keeping up an act. It's got to be an act. She can't possibly believe those things that she says. But this has got to be the reason that even the crazies aren't watching her anymore. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. Those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. And please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the Common Sense Garage. We'll see you in the next one.